In this video, we're going to show you to install backing plates on your Ford Taurus located behind your rear brakes. Using a 19mm socket, loosen and remove the lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, you can now grab that wheel and remove it and set it aside. Remove your brake caliper. There are two 13mm bolts, one on top, one on the bottom. You can use a wrench or ratchet. Loosen and remove these bolts and set them aside. Using a small pry bar, you can go between the caliper bracket and the caliper and gently pry this out. You can work it from the top and bottom. Once you remove the caliper, you want to pull it back to the coil spring on the back side and secure it over there. Remove your brake pads and slide those outward. And set those aside. On the back side of your caliper bracket, you're going to find two bolts. You want to go ahead and loosen and remove these using a 15mm shallow socket. Once you have those bolts out, you take that caliper bracket and set it aside. Next, we want to go ahead and remove our brake rotor. And on our particular vehicle, we have a T40 Torx bit screw holding this in place. If your vehicle does not have this, then your rotor will be free. You can go ahead and pop that off and set that aside. Now, it's not critical to the operation of the braking system, so it doesn't matter if you have this or not. Manufacturer uses this to hold the rotor in place on the assembly line while the brakes go on. Now, if you have it, go ahead, loosen and remove this. Once you have that out, go ahead and work that rotor off and set it aside. We're going to use a 32mm deep socket to loosen and remove our axle nut. Now we want to go ahead and see if your axle pushes in, and ours is stuck in the splines here onto the wheel hub. So you want to use a heavy-duty punch, put it in the center. We want to break that free. Now, you may not be able to see it, but our axle is moving in and out here a little bit. If I reach around the back here, normally you can push these in and out a little bit, so it might be stuck a little bit, but it is moving. And that's the key thing. Once you've done that, let's go ahead and move to the back side. We'll go ahead and remove our ABS speed sensor. There's an 8mm bolt holding this in place. So we're going to use our socket, our extension, and this is just our 1/4" ratchet. Okay, loosen it and remove this bolt. We're going to use some penetrant here to try and spray around here, because we now need to remove our sensor. If you follow the line over here to this bracket, we can go ahead and slide this up and out. You don't want to grab the wire and pull it up and out. So if you work on both sides and gently wiggle this up, that'll free that. You should be able to spin this in place to rock it back and forth and then pull it out. Sometimes it gets stuck in there. That's why we use that spray lube on there. Sometimes you can grab this here and just gently rock it back and forth, twisting it up and down. You want to just be careful and gently wiggle this around until we can get this free, and then we'll pull that out. So we have this moving a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down and kind of twist this a little bit more and spin this sensor out. Now that we have that out, we're going to set that aside. On the back side here, we want to go ahead and unbolt the 4 bolts holding our wheel hub in place. These are 18 millimeter. There's 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th one is just diagonal up on the other side of the CV axle. So these tend to be a little bit tight, so you may have to switch over to a breaker bar or maybe your impact gun if you can fit it in there. And once you break these free, then you go ahead and pop your ratchet on there. And just continue to do this for these 3 here, and then we're going to go around the other side and get that 4th one up top. Now, if you have the impact gun, it'll speed things up for you. I'm just using our swivel 18 millimeter with long extension. Let's now go ahead and get the 4th and final bolt on the other side. Over here, we use our 18 millimeter wrench. Once you get that bolt broken free, you're going to switch over to your ratchet and zip that one out. Now we went ahead and sprayed down the wheel hub and the knuckle with some rust penetrant to try and soak in for a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my air hammer here, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of blip these tabs here to try and get this wheel hub to start to move a little bit. I'm going to use my sledge hammer to try and knock this hub loose a little bit. Now we're going to change up the tip on our air hammer here. We're going to try and get between the bearing and the knuckle itself. And you can alter depending what you're going to be using. You just need to get this hub free from the knuckle. Now we have a little bit of separation there, so we're going to go ahead and spray some more rust penetrant inside there and let this soak. And we're going to pretty much continue this process until we can get the hub to start to spin and start to work itself out. Using an 8mm socket, I'm going to loosen and remove the bolts securing our backing plate. Now, before we install our new component, you want to go ahead and clean up the knuckle face. Now, when cleaning up the face here, you want to be careful. You can use a flat file here and you can work it back and forth like this. You can use an air tool with a soft cookie on it and go ahead and clean this up. And on the inside here, where the hub goes, ideally you can use a rounded file and simply lift up that axle, and you're going to go ahead and work your way around and clean up any of that corrosion that's in there. Go ahead and chase it with a spray solvent, clean it all up, get it ready to go. Now, before we install our backing plate and our wheel hub, we're going to go ahead and coat this in some anti-seize compound. Hopefully, if any of this needs to be removed, that anti-seize compound will prevent us from having to jackhammer all of the stuff off again. Don't forget to get the inside where that hub is going to sit. Now we can go ahead and grab our backing plate. Now, installing your backing plates, if you're doing both sides and you got the kit, you're going to get a left and right hand side, and they are in fact different. On our particular component here, it has an L for the left hand side, the other one's going to have an R on the end of the skew. Make sure that the curved lip on the top faces inward. Line up your brake section here, and you should be able to line up all those bolt holes, and they line up. Let's go ahead and get all your bolts started. And then once we do, we're going to come on back and snug them all down. You do want to make sure that these are good and snug. When I install our wheel hub, on the back side, you're going to notice that 2 points are closer together than the other two, so it falls into place on here. So there's a specific position on installing this. Line this up. Now you're going to spin the back side of the hub flange to get this to line up, and this is going to be locked into the axle. So go ahead and line this up. Push that back into place. Now we went ahead and ran our bolts through the wire wheel machine to clean up the threads, and then we just put a coating of anti-seize compound on one side. Let's go ahead and we're just going to feed this through the back side. And all we're going to do is, one by one, we're going to get these bolts started. And you might have to just kind of wiggle that hub around a little bit to get the threads started on there. Now I'm going to get this running a few threads. And then we're just going to go ahead and you're literally just going to reach around the back side, get it put into that knuckle. We have all four in. Push that hub in. Now let's go ahead and start to tighten everything down and torque them into place. Now I want to go ahead and snug these bolts down. Now we just want to snug them. They do have to get torqued in the end. Let's go ahead and tighten the last bolt up top. And we're going to go right into torquing it. You want to torque these to 98 foot-pounds, and you're going to do this in a crisscross pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one here. Then I'm going to come on over here, and I'm going to tighten this lower one right here. And then we're going to go up top and tighten that upper one there, and then the lower one down here. Now when doing this job, if you remove the wheel hub, you want to go ahead and replace these bolts. Do not reuse the bolts because they're stretch bolts. When you torque them, they stretch to their max capacity. So you need to replace those bolts. Now we're using a 3/8 torque wrench here. It fits in between this bolt area and the wheel well. If you have a larger breaker bar or a torque wrench, you're not going to be able to torque it because you're going to hit the wheel well area, and you can't fit a flexible socket in here. It'll hit the shock. So 3/8 shorter torque wrench to go ahead and get these done. I'm going to run a little extension here. All right, let's go ahead and finish up with this lower bolt. All right, our wheel hub is torqued. We're gonna go ahead and spray some anti-seize compound on our hub face. I like to use a protector here just so it doesn't get all over everything else. Then we can go ahead and grab our brake rotor and pop that on. If you have the screw for your rotor, go ahead and install that. If you don't, you can just let it hang there until you get your caliper bracket. Now remember, this is just to secure this flat to the hub itself. It doesn't have to be super tight, but you do want to make sure that it's good and snug. I'm going to go ahead and get our caliper bracket installed. I'm going to get the upper one started. Then we'll go ahead and get the bottom one started. I'm going to go ahead and run these down as far as I can by hand. Pop the ratchet on there, we'll snug those down. Let's go ahead and install your brake pads. Set that into place. Get these bolts started. And our slide pin is here is rotating, so we're just going to grab our wrench. .15 millimeter. Go ahead and gently snug that down. And snug that one down. Go ahead and install the axle nut. Tighten that down. Now let's go ahead and torque it. Install 2 lug nuts. Make sure they're side by side. And thread them down a bit. I'm going to use a pry bar. This is going to be used to lock that wheel in place while we go ahead and torque the wheel axle nut. to 258 foot-pounds. Once that's torqued, remove the pry bar and the lug nuts. The lug nuts are used to protect those threads. Grab your wheel, get that put onto the studs. Now we're going to go ahead and install all of our lug nuts by hand, and once we get them started, we'll go ahead and snug them down. When doing this here, it's preferred if you do it in a crisscross or star pattern. Now let's go ahead and torque them down. Now let's go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. And preferably you want to do this in a crisscross pattern. And you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.